This is State Treasurer Falwell. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Supplemental Retirement Board of Trustees meeting of the Audit Subcommittee. I won't be able to stay very long because of a scheduling conflict, but I'd like to thank all of those participants, board members who are joining us and staff who made all this happen. I call the meeting to order. If you'll stand and join us in our Pledge of Allegiance and our salute to the North Carolina flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the old North State love, loyalty, and faith. Thank you. We do have a public comment section. If anybody wishes to make a public comment, please sign up on the public comment section. Just to note that this meeting is being recorded and posted online as well as other materials. We ask that if you're not speaking, mute your phone. We'll be taking roll call by name without objection. If there's any votes that need to be taken, that will person making the motion or seconding the motion will be considered a yes vote. If you have to leave the meeting at any point, which I'll have to in just a moment, please announce your departure and likewise when you return. Finally, any text or recorded communication between board members during the meeting, even on personal phones, that are subject to public records to the extent that they concern the meeting itself. And I'll ask that you call the roll.
Treasurer Falwell.
Here.
Steve Bain.
Here.
Shavella Thomas.
Present.
And Bob Shea.
Here.
Thank you. Our ethics awareness identification of conflicts. Please note, take a moment to view the agenda. Does anyone have a present or actual conflict of interest regarding the matters that are before us? Okay, hearing none, should any conflict arise during our meeting, please let the presiding chair know during that period of time. With that, I'd like to welcome Thomas here, Thomas Ray here to give us an update supplemental report.
Thanks, Mr. Treasurer. So again, thanks, Mr. Treasurer. Thanks, everyone, subcommittee members, and everyone that's here today and staff. Thomas Ray, partner at UHY, here today to kind of go over the financial statement audit results and some highlights for the supplemental retirement plan. So I think I have a slide deck. Oh, ready? Start. I mean, do we need it? I mean, I can do it without it.
Go ahead, I'll go.
Okay, so again, my agenda today is just to kind of go over some financial highlights, go through the 2023 audit results of the plans. Every audit is risk-based, and we live by standards. There's also one of the auditing standards are required communications to those charged with governance, and that's why I'm here today to not only provide these highlights, but to go over some of those required communications by auditing standards. And then just as a reminder, every year as part of the contract, it's somewhat outside of the scope of the financial statement audit. We do what we call employer testing, where we pick a sample of employers around the state and go through them and actually deal directly with those employers to validate that the input that we're getting at the plans, what Empower gets from the employers, from payroll, et cetera, is being accurately reported to the plan. So yeah, next slide. Just kind of go over the highlights at a really high level of the 401k and the 457 plans. As you can see, up about $2 billion. So I'd call it a bit of a bounce back year. If you look to the next slide, you'll also see for a mature plan, pretty good. Usually a mature plan, distributions that typically outpace contributions. They're essentially a wash. So we live and die by investment returns. And so you see that net investment income of almost $2 billion is essentially the increase in net position for the year in the 401k plan. And we'll probably see something very similar on the 457 plan, which is the next slide. So again, 457 up about 300 mil, 200 million dollars. You'll also see on that next slide then that the net investment income for the 457 plan, $257 million. So a little bit distributions outpaced contributions, and thus that net difference of $226 million is net increase to 457. So overall, bounce back year from the 2022 losses that we saw in the past. Next slide. So really why I'm here today is we conduct our audit. I met with the audit subcommittee at the beginning of the process and kind of went through the audit process and how we do it really in two stages. We come out prior to fiscal year end and do test the controls, walkthroughs of processes and procedures, and then we really focus on the balance sheet or some of those numbers that you just saw and actually substantively audit them. The results this year were an unmodified or what used to be an unqualified, but either way a clean opinion. Every governmental financial statement also includes management's discussion and analysis. We call that required supplemental information. There are limited procedures that we perform on that. That's typically just, there's a lot of good information in that management discussion and analysis, both market related and also just supportive of the financial statements themselves and some of the footnote disclosures. We read through that and work with management to make sure there's nothing that contradicts what's in the basic financial statements and the footnotes. We also issue a report on internal control. I'm happy to report that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. If there were, obviously that would have been a required communication that I'll get to a little bit. And then finally, that letter. So we do memorialize some of the communications that I'll go through in a letter to those charged with governance, but I'll go through some of the highlights of that in a few more slides. Next slide. Or the next slide. Yeah. So some of those required communications, it goes just that letter that I'm speaking to speaks to our responsibility under generally accepted audit standards. If there are any new significant accounting policies that are ever adopted in any given year, that would be reported in that letter and just kind of what it was and how it impacted the financial statements. There were none in 2023. Any significant estimates, typically we would go through. The only thing that's really touches on a significant estimate in the financial statements, the stable value funds, the crediting rate is reset by actuarial methods. So that's what we would consider a bit of an estimate, just that crediting rate. But obviously we know that crediting rate is supported by all the underlying assets. Just want to report that management was very cooperative and professional during the audit process. We had no disagreements with management. We're not aware that they consulted with any other accountants on the application of generally accepted accounting principles or audit standards. There were no major issues discussed prior to the start of the audit. And then the last thing that happens and will happen right after this meeting is that management signs what we call a representation letter. So we'll have Treasurer Tom, Jeff sign that letter, and that is ultimately what will conclude the audit. And that letter and the date of that letter coincide with the date of our audit opinion. And then again, I just wanted to spend a few seconds. So any questions on the audit before I move and just kind of was going to give a little highlight on the employer testing?
No questions for me.
All right, awesome. Hearing none, I'll move to that next slide. Again, just a reminder for the audit subcommittee, what we do, in addition to issuing an opinion and auditing the basic financial statements, we also perform additional procedures that I would consider in addition to what we would typically do for the contributions, the employer reporting. So that's really on this slide. So I just provided a summary of what we are doing. So we're dealing directly with the employers on a sample basis. We usually do about 25 every year. Usually always hit the 10, 12 largest, and then some of the others are on a rotating basis. And we're recalculating their contributions to their payroll register, recalculating their contribution amounts, verifying the employee contributions from that payroll register are included in the contributions that are remitted to Empower, that the total employer and employee contributions from the payroll register agree to the GL that's housed here, and then that's the total remittance of the contributions for the pay period under review agreed to the custodial bank and Empower. So just kind of doing that directly with the employers is a good test, and it also kind of validates what we're seeing at the highest level. Jeff is in receipt of a more detailed report of our findings. Typically, we do have findings with the employers, and then we just kind of leave that with management. So I don't want to get into the findings. There's nothing significant, but we do leave that with Jeff, so he and staff can kind of follow up with some of those employers and just make sure that there's corrective actions taken for what we're seeing in that testing. And with that, kind of wraps up everything that I wanted to go through with the subcommittee. So again, I'll just open it up to any questions.
This is Steve. Can I ask a question about that last section?
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe it ought to be directed to Jeff as well. But you know, we came up with issues last year when the transition was some payroll issues and all of that. Is that what this identifies mostly? So that are there other issues that it identifies that may be errors or things like that?
Yeah, so this again only ran through the end of 2023. So all this was you're looking at data prior to the actual platform transition. But similar to last year, the core of the findings is where we see that employers miscalculated either an employee contribution or an employer contribution, or maybe they did not update a contribution election change. So there were a total of 8 findings, all of them very minor in nature. And we will be following up with each of the employers to ensure that all of these items are corrected.
Okay, thank you there.
Right, and I'll just tack on that to Jeff's point. This is in addition to the audit, so none of those findings that are part of this testing amount to a hill of beans in relation to the financial statements. So completely immaterial, but good information for management, and kudos even to the subcommittee for kind of having us do that, because again, it validates that the inputs directly at the employer level.
Okay, thank you. May I ask one more question back to an earlier page, just curiously, and I should know this, but on the 401k, with the page that had net changes of position and balance sheet, we're showing basically the balance sheet, the $250 million of loans or receivables from participants. My assumption is that is most all loans, and on the surface it seems high, but I can't remember the last 5 years what's happened with the COVID loan change and all that, if it has gone up significantly. I'm just curious.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, that level of loans outstanding, stays somewhat level. You can see it from, the prior year, it
Yeah.
had gone up, I guess that's about
$7 million.
Yeah. So that's about the average outstanding loan balances.
Yeah, I just didn't go back and check 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm just curious if it had gone up substantially since the COVID changes we made to loan provisions.
Yeah, I can look back at that and I can respond back to you.
Right.
That's fine. Okay.
There probably
Well,
was a spike.
I don't have any other questions, though. I think it's a nice and clean.
Yeah, I do think with the CARES Act, and sorry, this is Paul Palermo from Financial Operations. I do think from the CARES Act, their permittances of loans, for other causes, did increase a little bit. I can, as well as Jeff, go back and look at some of those trends. I didn't bring my machine down here to look, but we can pull up some prior just to kind of answer that. I do think we would see a spike in the fiscal year end 20 and 21, potentially. Not significant hundreds, but a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there questions for Thomas Ray?
None for me.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the 2023 financial statements for the NC 401k and 457 plans?
This is Shavella. I move that we approve the,
I'll second.
yeah.
I'll second or Bob can, either one. Doesn't matter.
Steve.
All right, we have a motion from Shavella and a second from Steve. Any other discussion on it? All right, call the roll.
Thomas Causey. And Bob Shea.
Aye.
All right, we don't, do we have any public comment? We don't have no public comment, so we'll close that. And then I guess our next actual board meeting is going to be Thursday, August 22nd, 2024 at 9 o'clock. And that really ends our discussion today. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have motion and a second. Any closing comments before we go?
I have some, Tom. I just wanted to thank the subcommittee, but also just give a shout out to staff. One thing I didn't say is that those financial statements that were just approved, the only thing that we own is the actual opinion itself, and that the rest of them it's management's document, and a lot of hard work goes into putting that together. So appreciate all the hard work and cooperation in getting to this point today. So thanks.
Thanks, that's great to hear. All right, motion and a second. Take the roll.
Thomas Causey.
Aye.
Steve Bain.
Aye, and I supplement that comment of thanks to everybody on staff and Tom and your group for doing a nice, efficient job. Good deal.
Thank you. Team does a great job. All right, well, our meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Yes, take care.
All right. Bye.